Hello and welcome to our first edition of the studio for Gold Coast School of Construction. I'm Chris Clausing, Program Director for Gold Coast, and we are here with Dan Villa.
Hello. Hi, Chris. Thank you.
You're welcome. Absolutely. Our illustrious plan reading guru, and we're going to be doing a quick review of wall sections today, right?
Yeah, that's right. We are, in our classes and our module courses, and even in my plan reading weekend workshop that we teach, we were able to kind of go over plan reading at a general sort of like 1,000-foot level. You know what I mean?
Very introductory, but
right.
Good
So
overview.
what we're going to do today is talk a little bit more about just one type of drawing that you'll find in a plan set, which is the wall section. And we're going to talk about the things that you can find there, what to look for in a wall section, and just at a really basic level, what does a wall section look like? How can you find it when you're taking your exams?
Well, and that's what I struggled with when I first got, the first time, the very first job site I walked on was the vice president of
boy.
FedEx,
Okay.
the vice president of FedEx.
Yeah.
So this was when I was working with Oxford. The job site was completely empty.
Mhm.
Everyone had abandoned the job. I was the only person there, and I had this plan set in front of me with like 100 wall sections, it seemed like. And the owner rolls up on me and just starts peppering me with questions about the wall section, because that's what I'm looking at. So I have some PTSD as it relates to wall sections.
It's going to be okay.
Okay, we're gonna be good.
Yeah, we're
All
going
right,
to get
good,
through
good.
this.
So the plan set we're going to be working with is module 10. So this is the module 10 plan set that you'll find in your study guide. So the general contractor study guide. So go ahead and open that up, and we're going to go to that plan set. Why don't you share your screen
Sure.
with the actual plan set, and we'll navigate our way towards the wall section.
All right. So your the first page of that drawing set in your study material is going to look just like this. So this is a set that, as you can see, it's a 4-story commercial building, and it's a Chamber of Commerce building. And the set's organized just like a typical drawing set, right? It goes from big to small. So the beginning of the set's the site plan, and then it's going to go to the floor plans, right? And eventually, and sort of throughout the set, you're going to see more detail. Okay.
Well, in the site plan, what I love about the site plans is, well, first of all, I like this one because it's very simple. Okay, so
Yeah,
this is a simple type site plan. You'll be looking at one that'd be more complex probably in real life, but on the test, the state exam, this is a good simulation. But it shows you the building and some basic dimensions of the building. It gives you the layout, the property lines, and that's all for future videos and things. But the site plan is so important to kind of give you a sense of what project you're doing.
Yeah, and the big thing about it too is that it really orients you like on the property, and kind of gives you a sense of the location of the building. It shows you the property lines around the outside. It doesn't really give you any information about the inside of the building. And what I tell the students in the plan reading class is basically your site plan shows you everything from the outside of the walls to the property line.
Gotcha.
Like between the walls and the property line, that's what you see in the site plan.
Perfect.
So you're going to see, zoom in just a little bit, and we're going to get to wall sections. Don't worry.
But it's just the wall section as it is. All right, we're good. This is good stuff.
So, sorry, here we go. All right. So basically, just to get everybody oriented, right? Here's our building. Okay. And here's our property line. And you can actually see the note here. It says PL. Okay. And here's our property line that goes around. We've got this curve in here. That's a fun one for doing area takeoff.
So good luck with that
Right.
one. We're gonna have fun
Okay.
with
So it
that.
goes like that, more or less, right?
And that's the dashed line with the bolded kind of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, this is important, but your property line is always going to have either a long line and a dash, and a long line and a dash, or which is actually more typical, like in most drawing sets, it's going to be a long line, 2 short dashes, long line, 2 short dashes, long line.
Gotcha. Okay.
So anyway, all right. So we're here in the site plan.
All right.
Right, so what's next?
So we need to navigate, I guess, towards the, I mean, let's go straight to wall section
Yeah, sure,
and figure out what this building's made of and.
yeah. So really the kind of what I try and focus on in the module classes is if you need some bit of information, if the test is asking you for some bit of information, you need to know where to look for it. Okay, so when we get that question that asks us about vertical information, like heights of things, or if it's asking us about a particular type of material or like a type of construction material. Well, I don't want to say material too many times, but that's
Right,
kind of what it is, right?
Yeah,
When it's asking you for those sorts of things, you need to look for the wall section, okay?
like
So-
what kind of block you're using, or what type of drywall you're using, or insulation you're using.
Sure, yeah, insulation's a big one. Floor material,
There you go.
you usually find it there. Does it have a baseboard?
Right.
What's the ceiling made out of? What's the height of the window sills? That's another big one. I don't know if they're gonna ask that question too often on the exam, but in the real world, that's where you'll find that a lot of time.
Perfect. Okay, great.
So if it asks you for something like that, you're probably not gonna spend too much time looking on the floor plans, right? But these little symbols here, right? That are on the floor plan, okay? Those show you where to look for your wall sections.
What are these called? These are,
These are called, usually they're called tags,
that's right.
okay? So that's one way to call them. Oops, didn't mean to do that, sorry. Let me.
Random red lines, see? Dan is he's an artist by passion, so he's gonna whip out a drawing.
I'm a iPad artist by passion. Okay, so this is how this works. So this is actually on the last page of the set of plans. So
Okay.
you can follow along if you want, right? And this is just an explainer
Yeah.
of what this tag or label is, how it works, right? So we got the main part, okay, is the head of the tag, and that's the circle, okay? So that's your circle here, all right? And then you're either gonna have a straight line with a little L on it, like this one
yeah.
here, okay? So you're either gonna have the L, or you're gonna have the line with a dashed circle on it. All right,
Gotcha.
so that one's actually for plan details, the second one, okay? So we're really gonna be using this one, the top one. Finally, we go over to the head, back to the head here, you got the circle with a line through it. The top number is always your drawing number that you're looking at. So in
Okay.
this case, that's gonna be the section number, okay? And then the bottom number is the sheet number. So in like, in these plans that are for the exam, they're a little bit simplified.
Right.
So, so the sheet number is only one number, right? And then the other thing to just look over real quick is that this has a little hat on top, right?
Mhm.
So the hat tells you what direction the view is looking.
I got you.
Okay, you got that?
Yeah.
And this is like one of the building blocks of going through a drawing set and sort of navigating your set.
Well, I think that's the hardest part for people who aren't familiar with plan reading is you're representing really a three-dimensional object in two dimensions. So
Mhm.
you have to look at it either from the top view or from the side view,
Right,
right? I mean, you can't, there's no way to look, there's no three-dimensional representation on the drawing. So
not yet.
not
Yeah,
yet,
I mean,
yeah.
eventually we're gonna be there with our like Oculus.
Yeah, right. In the metaverse, you'll be able to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, so that's always interesting. So when we look at the wall section, then
Mhm.
we are looking at this first one.
Yeah, let me go back to the floor plan so that we can have a look there. Okay, so here's our tag again, right? Again, that's the oh goodness. It's basically just showing us right here, okay? So this is telling us that if we go to drawing number 2, okay, on page 8, all right, we are going to find this view here, right? That's cutting through the wall. Okay,
Gotcha.
let's take a step back.
Okay.
So a section, whether it's a wall section or a building section, is essentially what that drawing does is it shows you if you were to cut through the wall and look at the cut, right?
Mhm.
That's what that is.
Understood.
So if you, let's say you have like a hamburger and you cut it in half and then you look at the side of the hamburger where you see the bun, lettuce. I don't.
Well, no
whatever
lettuce on
you
mine,
want.
but yes, I get your point.
Cheese.
Yes, there we go.
The-
Bacon,
The patty, yeah.
patty, another slice of cheese.
All right.
So we're good.
And then the bun,
And the bun.
right? So that's what the section is. You're cutting through it and then you're looking at the cut. All right.
Awesome, okay.
All right. So we got that. Let's go ahead and actually get to this section.
Okay, perfect.
So let's look sheet number 8. Okay, and we're gonna look at drawing number 2.
All right, I love it.
So.
So
fast forward
you
here a
guys,
little
y'all can follow along with this. So you're gonna be in sheet 8, maybe you need to be in module 10
bit. Mhm.
in your
There it goes.
workbook or your study guide. Perfect.
Yeah, okay, so
Oh,
here
there
we
it
have
is.
Sheet
All right.
number 8. Okay, it's down there in the corner of the title block. And drawing number 2 is actually over here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rotate the drawing so that we can see it a little bit better. Oh, boy. Oh, that's the wrong sheet here. There we go. Okay, all right. So you can see here, just what we were talking about before, we're cutting through that wall, right? Now,
No, so real quick before we go, so we have 2 wall sections. So
Yes.
this is saying that there's really 2 different types of walls in this building. So each different type of wall would have its own section. Right? If it was a different
Yeah.
size or different material or anything different within it, it would have its own drawing.
yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
I mean, like Chris was saying before, in the real world, you might have 20 different wall
Right.
sections, like especially like in a, in a custom home or something like that.
Yeah,
Because the other thing that it shows us, and we can see it here in this drawing, is that it shows us different conditions, like where we might have an overhang or a balcony. And so you can see here in wall section 1 on this sheet, this is where the stair is at the entry on this one, right? So you see the soffit up here and at this like entry
Right.
area,
right.
right? So the one that we had picked to look at, section drawing 2, right? It's just a straight wall. And actually, it's a wall without even any windows.
Right, right.
Okay,
It's
so
a
we
very
picked an interesting one. All right.
the
Um,
ugliest building ever.
yeah.
Right.
Well, that must be the back of the building. I
Okay.
guess.
You gotta give a little height, a little, anyway, that's
Do that.
bad architect. Sorry.
Okay,
It's okay.
but we'll look at them side by side.
Yeah.
So that we can actually kind of compare the differences, right? Okay, so remember, we're gonna look for 2 different things. We're gonna look for vertical information, so
All right.
heights. Okay, and we're gonna look for parts in the building.
Gotcha.
So what do you want to start with?
Well, why don't we start from the bottom and work our way up? So, I want to start foundation.
Yeah.
And see kind of what we have in the foundation, because, this not only tells me about the wall, but it tells me kind of what's underground as well.
That's a
supporting
great
the wall.
point. That's an
Okay.
excellent point. Okay, so if we look at drawing number 2 here, wall section number 2. You're gonna see a foundation down here at the bottom, okay? So we have this concrete grade beam
Right.
down here at the bottom, okay? And how do we know that's grade beam? Well, we know because and because you've been doing this for a while and you know what a grade beam looks like.
Right.
It's just a rectangle of concrete, right? The other thing that we can look at here is this note over on the side. 5 foot by 1 foot 4 inch continuous concrete grade beam with 5 number 6s continuous.
There we go.
Boom.
All right.
Remember to look at the notes.
Yes.
Right? Because the notes actually are going to have a lot of the information that you need while you're taking the exam.
Absolutely. So this is telling us, so just to verify then, so the 5 by 1 and 4 inches, that's the size of the grade beam.
Yep,
So if they ask you a question about volume of concrete, you're gonna need to know the size of it,
absolutely.
dimensions. So
Absolutely.
this is the only place you can go to find that really on this plan set.
Yeah, because in this plan and set in specific, there aren't that many grade beams.
Right.
It's mostly piles with
Right,
pile caps.
right.
But
And then the other thing that this tells me then is that it's continuous. Okay, that's not necessarily exam level stuff, but the size of the rebar.
Right.
So
Right.
tell me where that comes from and how we determine that.
It's right there in the note. Weren't you listening?
I was not paying attention. I was daydreaming.
No,
So-
yeah, no, it's right in, it's right in the note. 5 number sixes,
There we
right?
go.
So remember, number 6 is the name of the size of the rebar. Okay,
Right,
so it's 6/8 inch diameter,
right,
and you have 5 of them.
right. So this is gonna
Okay.
be a 3/4 inch thick piece of rebar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
6/8 equals 3/4
There you
inch,
go.
same thing.
Perfect, perfect.
Okay, so while we're looking at the grade beam, here's the other thing that this really tells us is vertical information, right? So I can look at the grade beam, and I'm gonna, hang on, I'm gonna undo some of my marks here, just for clarity. So I can look at that grade beam. And if I need to know how far from the finished floor of the building the grade beam is, like how far down it is, I can find that here too. So what I'm gonna do is look at the dimensions that we have on the sides, okay? All right, so first off, let's find where the finished floor is for the first floor, okay? It's right here, right? So when you're looking for vertical information, whether it's in a building section or on an exterior elevation or in a wall section like this, you're gonna look for that little sort of like bullseye symbol, right?
That's right, okay.
So it's this guy, right? With like a fill-in thing like that.
So that's indicative of an elevation.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, of a height,
Mhm.
basically,
Mhm.
you know, in other words, it's a height, right? So it's telling us that our first floor here is at 0, 0. You can see it right there, okay? Now, what we're gonna do is just look at the dimensions that we have here. So finished grade is 2 feet 4 inches below the first floor.
Right.
Right, and then the top of the concrete grade beam is 8 inches below that. Right, so we got 2'4" plus 8. Okay, it's 3 feet, right?
There you go. So the elevation of the top of this grade beam is actually gonna be a -3, right? Because it's below
Yeah,
the finished floor of 0.
yes,
So it would be represented on the exam purposes, just make sure, because a lot of students will say 3 feet there as opposed to -3. So it's gonna be a -3.
that's a good clarification.
Yeah.
So if it's asking you just like, if I were to say, oh, hey, how far is it from the finished floor or the first floor, you might just say 3
You might
feet.
say 3 feet.
But if
right?
it's asking you for the elevation, you're gonna need to say -3 feet.
There we go.
Because remember, if we look here on our little tag here, right? That we tagged up before, it's telling us that the elevation there is 0, all right? So that's gonna be like our benchmark for the project. Is that a good way to put it, Chris?
Yeah, I think so. I think that there's a lot of confusion for students who maybe aren't as familiar with some of the site work parts of construction, that you really have 2 elevations. You have an actual elevation and you have a finished floor elevation. The actual elevation is kind of what you deal with as a surveyor when you're doing the site. You're trying to come up with, okay, this is X amount of feet above sea level. That's kind of your actual elevation,
Yeah.
right? So maybe that's 100 feet above sea level.
Yeah.
But once you set your slab, you're gonna determine a finished floor elevation. The building's gonna be now based on some 0.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So here we have it here, that
There you go.
0, 0.
So that might be 100 feet above sea level.
Yeah,
Like-
if it's in like Denver,
Right.
you know, it's gonna be,
Right.
3,000 feet above
Right.
sea level.
Right.
If it's on Miami Beach, it's gonna be 3 feet above sea level.
Right.
Right.
Or where you live, -3 feet. In the bowl. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Good, good.
Okay,
All right,
great.
so there we go.
So that's like, those are the basics, right? You're gonna be looking at the dimensions that we have here on the sides. Our elevation tags, so that we know where 0, 0 is, okay? And our notes.
Perfect.
All right, why don't we keep going up?
Yeah. let's do it.
What do we have here, Chris? What's the concrete floor?
Well, I'm blind. You might have to zoom in for me.
Oh, yeah, sure. We can
Sorry.
Yeah, let's zoom into this one.
Okay, perfect. Okay, that's, oh, wow, there's actually
my
words
bad,
there.
my
It's not a
bad.
blur. Okay, so I like this because, again, this is another potential test question would be, how much volume of concrete do you need for a slab, right? So you got to know the thickness of the slab,
Right.
4 inches. What else? Well, the other thing I really like about this detail in these notes is it's telling me something, it's giving me a different type of reinforcement than a traditional rebar. In the footing is a number 6, but here we see something called a W 6x6 1010, a WWM, the welded wire mesh. This is a very common question, is they'll ask you on the state exam, what does the 10 over 10 mean? Right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I like to explain this to students in this way. The 10 over 10 is the thickness of the wire. It's the gauge.
Yeah.
All right. The 6x6 tells you, so if you know, because these are sort of in grid patterns, right? So the welded wire mesh comes in like a roll with
Like that.
grids. Yeah. So there's going to be
It's like a net.
it's like a net, exactly. And the 6x6 tells you the size of the opening in between the wires.
Yeah.
So and then because most slabs, you're just going to put a welded wire mesh, you're not going to just throw reinforcement like rebar all across the slab. You're going to use these sheets of WWM. So so as a builder now, then I understand, okay, I have a 4-inch slab, that's good, as opposed to like say a 6-inch. It tells me the wire mesh, but then also the other thing it tells me is the vapor barrier that I'm going to need and the thickness that I
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah. Right.
which is going to be
And
another
so this is
important piece.
all in this note right here.
Yep.
All right. Right. And then, so just remember, we see this arrow, this leader, as it's called, pointing down to the slab right there, right?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and so that tells you where the welded wire mesh reinforcement is going to go and the thickness and then you also have, it's also interesting, you have this 1/2-inch EXP, right? EXP joint. So that's going to be your expansion joint. Oh, we might have,
Oh, my goodness.
I need to reshare.
What's happened?
Technology.
Oh, I got cut off.
Oh, it's okay. I think we're on now.
That's weird.
Just technical issues, guys. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You know what it is? It's his computer's really bad. That's the problem. Actually, it's an amazing computer. I think we got him back on. I think. Well, I knew we had a problem when it wasn't
Oh.
showing your notes. I'm like, gosh.
Oh, it wasn't showing my notes?
Well, it stopped screen sharing, I think. But now we're back. We're good.
All right.
I tell you what.
There we go. Okay.
There we go. So now we
Back
got
in
the,
action.
yep, so we got the 4-inch concrete slab, we got the welded wire mesh detail, we got the vapor barrier detail, we got the 1/2-inch expansion joint. That's telling you that goes there.
EXP.
Perfect.
Means expansion.
And then
Yeah.
you have this really hideous, awful precast concrete base panel, which I just can't imagine how ugly those things are in real life, but
Yeah.
so, but that's what that is. So I think we're pretty good with the notes and up to the slab. So why don't we keep heading north here?
Okay, so yeah, so we're starting, we got what I would say is kind of just, you can just like work your way up from the first floor, right?
Right.
From the top of the first floor elevation.
That's a good process, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, and we can, I mean, look, obviously, if you're looking for, let's say if you're looking for information about the ceiling,
Right.
you're gonna look for the ceiling.
Yeah, you're not going to go to the
Just-
foundation work.
Yeah, right, exactly. So let's say, hey, the test says, how tall are the ceilings on the ground floor,
Right.
on the first floor? Okay, well, I guess it would depend on how they're wording the question, but what we can look for is, again, our first floor elevation, right? And then we're gonna look at the dimensions on the side, but we gotta think, okay, well, what are we, from where to where are we looking for?
Right.
And I think that's the main thing too, believe it or not, is like when you're looking for dimensions, I think the easiest way and the most direct way to do it is remember to just look at the things that you need the dimensions for.
Right.
Okay, so if it's asking me from the floor to the ceiling, find the floor and then find the ceiling. I mean, it sounds very basic, but it'll help you find the dimension that you're looking for.
Right.
Right, because we can just say, okay, here's the floor, right? And here's the ceiling, okay? So then we just need to look at the dimensions that are coming off of those two things, right? Okay, so here it even says it. finished ceiling, okay? So we get this line here, right, that's coming off of the ceiling. We got our floor here, right? So we know our floor is at 0, 0. So let's look for the dimension string between the ceiling and the floor. It's right here on the side. And we have the dimension right there.
We go, so from the top of the slab to the finished ceiling,
Mhm,
12 feet.
12 feet.
And then what's that little hash mark there? That little,
This squiggly thing?
yeah, this, well, the one right by the 12, just up north of the 12 there. It's like a little, the line straight and then it
Oh,
dashes.
that's called a break line.
Gotcha.
And basically what that means is like sometimes if we have a drawing that's too big to fit on the piece of paper, we'll kind of break it up into different sections.
Perfect.
And so when you see that, it means that there's some of the drawing has actually sort of been like cut out and then tightened up
For space
to say
purposes.
for space.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
so to be honest, like it's good to know that, but you don't really need to know that, especially for the exam.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. Perfect. And then you do have room above the ceiling to the bottom of the slab above it.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to scroll up here a little bit. Yeah.
So that when I mean, to be honest, the very first time I looked at this plan set, that was one thing I had to sort of look again at was, okay, so how much space do I have from my ceiling to the bottom of the slab or to the top of the slab above me?
Yeah.
So in this case, you do have from the ceiling, maybe that's a acoustical tile there. We don't know.
We do know.
Do we know? What does it say there?
Yeah.
Look at that. So what do we have? We have the 2x4 ceiling panels.
Yep,
Perfect.
24 by 48-inch ceiling panels.
Look at that.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So you're gonna,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
That's just another good example of when you need to know the materials and the bits and pieces
Right.
of what's happening in here, the assemblies. You're looking in the wall section.
There you go.
You know,
Okay.
hey, what's the ceiling made out of?
Yeah, right.
Boom.
Ceiling panels, 2x4 ceiling
go.
panels. So
There you
those
go.
are your acoustical tiles. So from the drop ceiling to the slab, then we have room there. We have space there. And what's the purpose of having 3 feet 2 inches of space there?
So here's the space you're talking about, Chris.
Yeah.
right? So there's your ceiling. Sorry, this pen is not very good for writing letters. All right, yeah, there's your ceiling. Well, yeah, what's in the ceiling? In this case, it's a lot of structure,
Right.
but in the real world, you get your light fixtures, your structure, your ductwork,
There you go.
plumbing.
Yeah. Sprinklers, probably. a
Oh,
commercial building.
absolutely,
for sure.
Yeah. So that's kind of, you're sort of like hiding everything up in
Right.
there, right? In this case, we can actually see the steel that's in there. So we have like a wide flange
There you
here, that sort of I-beam. We don't really call them I-beams, just so you know, it's a wide flange. So that's the wide flange in section, and then you can actually see it in the distance back there too. That's the bottom flange of the
okay.
beam
And
sort of in the distance.
Interesting. And that's going to be another session that we do in the studio. We're
Yeah.
going to be covering the joist and the steel joist and what the designations mean and all that. So that's another one. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Structural's
great.
good, yeah.
Yeah. So so we're working our way up to the second floor slab. So we have that
Mhm.
3'2". Now is that to the top of the slab above?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
to the second floor elevation.
Gotcha.
Right? So if we wanted to know how much space we actually had in the ceiling, we would need to know how thick the slab is, even how thick the ceiling assembly is,
Right.
and then you would have to subtract that.
There
So
you go.
elsewhere in this drawing set, and maybe we can do a session on details, it actually shows you the dimensions of that floor slab, because this floor slab is a little bit different than the ground floor slab. The
Gotcha.
ground floor one's just a slab on grade. This one's composite steel deck. So we've got concrete on top of a steel deck, okay?
Perfect. Perfect.
But sort of back to what you were looking at. Here we have another datum line symbol, right? And it's our second floor.
Yep.
And over here, it's telling us that we are 15 feet. Sorry, here's a tricky one.
Yeah.
This one's in decimals, right? So this is 15.17 feet.
This is when you get the construction calculator out. And I have one here handy. I dare not try to
Convert.
use it on the computer right now. I don't want to tempt fate. So if I do 15.17 feet, I can just convert that. Oops.
Yeah.
I can convert that. To
Yeah.
15
right.
feet, basically 2 inches, two
Yeah,
and
it's
6
15 feet, 2 inches, more or less.
Perfect.
But what about on the test? Like, are they gonna ask you decimals, feet?
Well, elevations
in
are
inches?
typically in decimal, right? I mean, elevations are going to be in a decimal.
Yeah.
So that would be, so you have to be able to convert. And then, but for dimensions, it's always going to be in feet and inches.
Yeah, and we can
Right.
actually just see that right here, you know, the elevation is in decimals, and then on our dimension line here, which is actually a dimension string, because it's just one after another,
Right.
it's in inches, 3'2".
There you go. Yeah. So the trick though is going to be, let's say it was 3 feet, 6 inches. That's going to convert to 3.5 feet. And
That's the
where
thing.
people get confused.
Yeah,
So,
exactly, especially if you've been using metric,
right.
because metric is, it's a lot more straightforward, it's just all decimals, right? But you know, keep your eyes peeled
Yeah.
for that, because
For
that
sure.
that can trip you up, right?
And that'll be also another thing we do on the future studio is going to be this Construction Master Pro, do a review of that. So
Yeah.
check it out for that
All right.
episode.
Okay, so let's just kind of scroll up to the roof.
All right.
Got a couple more notes here.
One thing I did want to actually, before you go, so from the second floor to the third floor to the fourth floor in this particular plan,
Mhm,
the first floor height was 12 feet to the ceiling.
mhm.
Now these heights are different. The second, third, and fourth floors are actually not as tall.
Mhm, mhm.
And I think that's an important thing too on the exam that students need to be aware of is that the floors don't always have to be the same height. So
Yeah.
you got to be careful with that on that.
Yeah, I mean, you just think about it, right? You go into an office building, your first floor is gonna have nice tall ceilings, you know, it's gonna be a lot more gracious and maybe luxurious even,
Right.
right? And then as you go up into the office floors, you know, you have a more normal ceiling height, like maybe 8 feet or 9 feet.
Right.
And in this case, we just look at our dimensions here, right? Again, we have finished ceiling right here, right? And from the third floor to the finished ceiling there, 9 feet.
9 feet. There
Okay.
you go.
So, yeah, good thing to sort of keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so we're moving on up to the we're going roof deck.
Yeah, let me, we got some good notes here. Maybe we can touch on these real quick.
Absolutely.
So say, hey, what's the exterior wall made out of here? Right? Look at your notes. Also, you should know like the patterns for symbols for materials, right?
Okay.
So I can look at this wall here, and it's basically the standard pattern or hatch, as we call it, for concrete. So it's basically like a little like sort of dots.
Oh, how it's drawn. I got you.
Yeah,
I
that's
got
the
you.
hatch,
Yeah,
right? Like when you're cut through something in a section, it uses a different pattern based on the material.
Understood.
Yeah, okay, so concrete has one pattern, steel has another pattern,
Gotcha.
wood has another, et cetera, et
And
cetera.
insulation has its
Insulation has this
own
crazy
detail,
spaghetti
right.
thing, okay?
Understood.
So, so I'm gonna see, okay, well I see the concrete pattern there, right? And also, hey, I have a note right here, precast concrete flat wall panels. Okay,
There we go.
boom, all right, one more thing here. Gonna take us back to a detail again, but we have another tag here,
Right.
right? A key tag, a symbol, right? So what this one's telling us is if we want to know more about this marble stool and base assembly, we need to go to drawing A on sheet 5.
Got it.
Okay, and that's just this little like, basically what it is here is it's something that they're building to cover up this steel angle, right? You have a steel angle there.
I was wondering.
Yeah.
3 years I've been working with this plan and I said, what is the purpose of this marble stool? And
Yeah.
now, thank you so much. Okay,
You're
so
welcome.
I'm good now. I
Yeah,
got
you're
to
welcome.
hide that steel angle.
Yeah.
Nice, okay.
I mean, basically that steel angle is going to be like holding the precast panels, right?
Right.
And so sometimes you might see that for like maybe like a baseboard heater or something like
Right.
that. But in this case, I think it's just to cover up the steel angle.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so let's continue up towards the roof. Yeah. Ready?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay, okay, well, oop, yeah, okay, great, yeah, we're already there, pretty much. Okay, what do we got here?
Well, here, well, I fear that I want to make sure we're still connected here. Okay, I think we're good. Draw something, draw a smiley face.
No, it's
It may-
it's disjointed again.
Is it? It's
Yeah, let
okay.
me stop share.
We'll stop share, reshare.
Is it? Yeah, it's like,
Just going a little slow, like me today.
come on. Well, that might be all.
Yeah, we might have to wrap this up. Let's see. Let's see.
Oh, here, hang on, let me.
Yeah, this is
Yeah, yeah, it just disconnected.
But that's
Just
okay. It gives us time to
disconnected.
reflect on all of the wonderful things. But this wall section, I will say, is not just for the example, for real life,
Yeah.
really critical to understand. that
Yeah.
piece of it.
Yeah, absolutely. When you want to know how a building is built, look at the wall section and you will learn so much about the building. I mean, it tells you finishes, it tells you structure, it tells you assemblies, you know,
Yeah.
and assemblies is kind of a word that you'll hear in the construction industry, and which is basically, it's just telling you like if you have a wall assembly, like what are the pieces of that wall?
Right.
You know, studs, sheathing, siding, vapor barrier, whatever, that all those parts come together to make an assembly.
Right.
Okay.
And you'll see assemblies, so assemblies are important for fire ratings, right?
Oh,
Because
super.
fire ratings are combined, all the assembly ratings come together.
Yep.
To have an assembly rating or a fire rating for an assembly.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that's important about assemblies, you'll find in the energy conservation code book, the assemblies need to have certain R values.
Yeah.
As well. So you'll see that word thrown around in the code book.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, it's kind of funny actually, these wall sections don't show any insulation in them.
Yeah.
But like in real life, the wall sections are a great place to find insulation information.
Gotcha.
All right,
Alright.
so just a heads up on that. Well, anyway, let's get back to the roof here.
Okay.
So we're at our fourth floor here, right? We got our finished ceiling here again, okay, right here, right? Okay, and then above the ceiling on the fourth floor, we have our roof structure.
There you go.
All right. So we have a couple different elevations associated with the roof. Okay. Working from the bottom up, we've got our roof line. Okay. And then above that, we have the top of parapet. Now, these are different things, right? So our roof line is actually here where we have our roof sheathing. Okay. And our waterproofing. Number,
Right.
okay. And then the top of parapet is at the edge of the roof where it comes up and it's like a little tiny wall, you know, that's the parapet.
Right.
So that's the top of parapet. So that's really like the height of the building, actually.
Right. So the parapet wall goes up. And if y'all want to know more about parapet wall, you got to go Florida Building Code Building, Chapter 7. That's where you
Yeah.
can find parapet.
There you go.
It's
But
actually a fire resistance feature.
Yeah.
Is why it's in Chapter 7 of Building Code.
yeah, there you go. Good stuff. All right.
Alright.
So yeah, I mean, one more material note here. Again, we got precast concrete. We got a precast concrete double T fascia panels. And I think that this is not a standard sort of component, right?
Right. Yeah.
So-
This looks heavy. And,
I mean, this is like a chunky building.
yes.
Right? That shows up on one of the other drawings, and
Gotcha.
you'll see it on the exterior elevations of this drawing set too. But looking inwards, just kind of to keep talking about what we're seeing here, you know, we have our panel here, this exterior panel, right? Then we have again another wide flange there, okay? And then this guy here, this is a bar joist,
Right.
right? And now this is kind of interesting because they're using a different structural system and assembly for the roof. So instead of on the other floors where you have a concrete slab, this one they're using a bar joist, which is like when you go to Home Depot and you look up in the ceiling, it's that zigzag
Right.
kind of thing, right?
Right.
That's what that is. It's a steel bar joist. And then it's insulation, a rigid insulation on top of a steel deck. And then over here you have a little camp strip. So that helps for waterproofing, right?
Ah, there you go. Okay.
Okay.
Beautiful. And then up to the parapet wall.
And then up to the parapet. Yeah. So, I mean, just to recap this real quick, right? We're starting from the grade down at the bottom, all the way up to the top of the parapet, right? So basically the whole height of the building is represented in the wall section drawing. And
Wow.
remember, we're gonna look for vertical information, so heights. And we're also gonna look for assembly information, which means like parts and pieces of the building.
Right.
So those are the main things. When you see a question about that on the test, you know, about like, hey, how high is the second floor? You know, hey, you can go to a wall section.
Right?
Yeah.
That gives you all the elevations that you need.
Yeah.
This is awesome. This is awesome. All right, stop share for 1 second. I
Yeah.
think you want to do this again on another session. This will be fun, right? You're coming back.
Yeah, I'll think about it.
He's coming back. He's coming
I'm
back.
coming back.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure having you share your expertise with us.
Absolutely. And Chris, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you or the school if they have any questions?
Yeah, so to get me directly, it's contractor@goldcoastschools.com. And if you want to email me, you can go to goldcoastschools.com for our website as well. The toll-free number's there if you need to reach the school for any reason. But if you want to email me directly, email me there.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys. I'm Dan. I teach in North Miami right now. And Chris, he's our program director.
There we go. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.